Well, here's a video I was hoping to make eventually, and now I've got the perfect excuse to do so, an update video for AQUAPLUS and the Nintendo Switch. And in fact, they're finally supporting the system. Let's get straight into it. Okay, so hi, I'm Milla, welcome to another Milla's Game Room video. This one is more spontaneous in light of recent Tokyo Game Show news. And I'm sure you've probably seen the news about all the other reports that were announced from the likes of Level 5, Square Enix, and a bunch of other companies. But instead I'm going to focus on one piece of Japan-only news from AQUAPLUS. This video also serves as a follow-up to a video I made last year, because back then AQUAPLUS still had yet to commit to properly supporting the system. And I was going to make an update once we had hard evidence, whether of actual support or an explanation, but as we have one of those now, I can make this video. AQUAPLUS announced on the first day of Tokyo Game Show that the Utawarerumono Trilogy is coming to Nintendo Switch, and was playable at Tokyo Game Show 2024. The whole series is coming out physically on the 30th of January 2025 in a triple pack with a bonus acrylic stand, whereas on March 27th, 2025, the ports are all going to come out individually, both physically and digitally. At the time of this video's production, there is no word on an English release, no confirmation on any multi-language support aside from Japanese, so assume this release is Japanese only unless we hear otherwise. RPG Site said in their coverage that they found out about localization companies seemingly found out at the same time we did, so that heavily implies that nobody's picked these ports up for the West yet. So I wouldn't be surprised if NICE go to AQUAPLUS and be like, hey, can we release this, which will make you loads of money. And speaking of money, in the original press release, AQUAPLUS confirmed that the Utawarerumono series has sold 1.2 million units worldwide, and that's including the Steam ports for all the games, all the Japanese only releases, as well as of course the localized copies of the Utawarerumono trilogy on PS4, Vita and PC, which is fantastic for such a niche series, and it's no wonder that they've continued to make so many new games for it. Let's talk a bit more about why they're finally supporting the Nintendo Switch. Now, AQUAPLUS has not specifically commented on why they're starting to bring stuff to the Switch now, but the reason why will become obvious. Now, in an interesting twist of fate, I originally had a video about consoles scheduled for the day this video goes up, and that video is going to be a bit later, because the main reason why AQUAPLUS have moved over to the Switch now with the Uta ports is that the PlayStation brand is dead in Japan. There will be no PS5 import scene. Sony has killed off PlayStation there effectively by not caring at all for the Japanese market. And yeah, while you can get PS5 demos at Tokyo Game Show and the like, as well as a bunch of Japanese developers still releasing their big stuff on the platform, Nintendo is really where it's at, and this was inevitable thanks to Sony just not giving a shit at all about the Japanese market. At this point, PC is now bigger than PlayStation in Japan. How this will affect AQUAPLUS, they've obviously been focusing on PC ports a lot the past couple of years. They brought over Dungeon Travelers, the Uta series, they're bringing over Utawarerumono Zan in 2025, and of course White Album 1, and pretty much all future titles from them will likely come to PC day one as well. That's just a guess on my part based on recent history, and this is establishing themselves on PC away from what is a shrinking market on PlayStation, and they were one of the most PlayStation loyal developers, even more so than the likes of Compile Art and Falcom, both of whom were reluctant to move to the Switch, but they finally did. And now what AQUAPLUS are most likely doing now is, much like they've established a market on PC now, both in and outside of Japan, they're doing the same now with the Nintendo ecosystem, not just for Switch, but also Switch 2. Ironically, there's been a lot of rumours that Nintendo will reveal that system soon, so a lot of people are going to reasonably assume, oh, the Switch is at the end of its life now. So why are they only just bringing it to the platform now? So one, that is a reasonable assumption to make. It has been out for almost 8 years now, but I want to counter that by saying, if we look at how the PS4 is still getting third-party games, localized outside of Japan, released in Japan as well, physically and digitally, the Switch is going to be around for a very long time yet. This Switch will likely still be getting new games in 2030. That could even be around the same time as the PS4 still getting games, and even physically too. Even if it's something like limited run games, we only get like a few thousand units, it's still going to be getting physical games. The PS4 will be, and that includes the Switch too. There are effectively 7 more years, potentially, for AQUAPLUS to keep bringing their stuff over, and it's the same for pretty much all other developers. Especially once the big companies move over to the Switch 2, you're still going to be getting new games. That is reality. The console market has changed a lot, and this is something I touch on more in that video, so please subscribe if you want to see that video. I expand on all this stuff more. This is just specifically relating to AQUAPLUS. I also came up with a theory after my previous video where I suspected a lack of resources was a contributing reason as to why AQUAPLUS didn't bring stuff to the Switch before, which I think has been disproven now. But I want to bring this up because it's clear that AQUAPLUS likely waited for all 3 ports to be done before announcing these games. The same with Dungeon Travelers on PC, where all 3 ports were announced at once, even if they weren't released straight away. That is speculation on my part though, so take it with a pinch of salt, but it does relate to what I'm about to say now, where I do a bit of predictions. And predictions are going to be cool because, well, I want to see this stuff on Switch. A lot of people want to see this stuff on Switch. I've gotten pretty good at predicting their behaviour now because I've been following them for a while. Once you start to pick up on these companies and Japanese trends and that kind of thing, it gets easy to predict this stuff. So my predictions is we're going to get a blowout of Switch, Switch 2 and to a lesser extent PS4 and 5 ports over the next several years, akin to what AQUAPLUS did within the late PS2 and PSP era and even into the Vita era too. The obvious starting point will be the festival, which they've got a big 30th anniversary festival. I'm going to put the trailer, which if you follow AQUAPLUS news closely, you'll have seen an absolute bunch of times already, so it's going to be there. I'll only show it once so not be annoying, but that's there. 2 Heart Remake will be the first big one. They've already revealed that, but no platforms or anything. And I suspect now, and I already believed this will come to Switch before, but now I feel pretty confident assuming that's going to come to Switch as well as PS4, 5 and PC when that finally is revealed at the festival. I think the same will also apply to other festival projects, but it really does depend how demanding they are. Like if it's Monochrome, maybe it's 2. That probably won't get announced for Switch because the first game never got on there, most likely because of technical stuff. That's just speculation on my end. Also worth adding a bit more for future ports because a lot of the discussion regarding AQUAPLUS bringing Utawarerumono to the Switch is about what will they bring over next, and I think this is now a reasonable question, so I'm going to indulge this a little bit. The first one I really would like to see, which shouldn't really surprise you, is the White Album series. And I think this will happen for a couple of reasons. The first is that it's a good time to re-release White Album 1 since it's now come to Steam, and it'd be nice if you could officially have that on a portable device physically. And then of course there's White Album 2, where that has not had a console release for 10 years now. Yeah, 10 years now. It's quite an old port. The last time it came out on the PS Vita, it was their first Vita game. And re-releasing that with the extended edition contents would be a great move, even for the Japanese market by itself. But for a localization would tie in really well because you can bring that over and just have a mountain of content. And it'd be a good way to do it at the same time because the PC ports of AQUAPLUS's games are all based on the console versions which were developed by Sting, so it would make a lot of sense to bring it to both Switch and PC and even PlayStation 4 and 5. So that makes a lot of sense. 2 Heart 2 falls into a similar boat. I think the 2 Heart remake is a different thing. It might be the same engine, it might not, we don't know, but 2 Heart 2 definitely uses the same stuff as the White Album 1 port, so that could probably come over too, even if it's only for Japan. It'd also be cool to bundle this and the 2 Heart remake in a bundle, but that is definitely wishful thinking on my part. And the final big one that people are going to bring up is the Dungeon Travelers series. Now for those who don't know, this series was unfairly banned from Steam. Just remember, you can buy the second game on consoles in Japan as well as in Walmart on the US on the PS Vita for the second game. So it's really weird. Even though Dungeon Travelers 1 did come to Steam when it was marked as an adult-only title, the other 2 games never came to Steam. And when Dungeon Travelers 1 first came to Steam, Trilogy were like, oh, let's do a poll on Twitter and ask people, should we try resubmitting the games? And although most people said yes, nothing has ever come of that. No comments. An open-ended issue which they should really answer at this point, but I suspect they're not allowed to. My theory is AQUAPLUS themselves are blocking ports of Dungeon Travelers from coming out on other storefronts, and that's only been proven more true as more Shirobune stuff continues to come to stores but not AQUAPLUS games. So at this point, bringing them to Switch is more of a necessity. I touched on this in my last video. I thought Dungeon Travelers would be announced before Utawarerumono, but that was obviously incorrect. And I think the reason why is because Uta is simply a lot more popular, especially when compared to the aforementioned Dungeon Travelers. The other thing to consider is Dungeon Travelers would require more work to come to Switch because you'd have to change some of the images for an international release, which I support. I know some people are going to be very upset with me for saying that, but sorry, that's a T. That's how localization works, and some people, like me, prefer it. I do think the Dungeon Travelers series will come next, though, after these Uta ports are out in terms of their RPGs, unless it's a new project, but that is more speculation, so if you're interested in playing the Dungeon Travelers games that were not localized on Vita back in the day, I would cross your fingers and hope for a Switch port, as well as politely request it. I wouldn't be surprised if Shirivune and Nicer were already like, yeah, you need to bring these to Switch as well, and we'll publish it kind of thing. But I know a lot of people have been thinking, could the Uta Switch ports come west? Because that's the final thing. Because they're not confirmed to be in English, there are people thinking it might not come over, and I feel pretty certain we'll get them eventually, especially once Nicer and like go up to them and ask for it, because it's for Switch, it will make easy money over here. It will fix the issues with availability that I touched on in my Utawarerumono Where Do You Start video, which I'll link below. Go watch that if you're not already. It's still in date, aside from the ports, but that's the video, go watch it. And of course my wishlist video, which I could go on about that, which I'm not going to because I've been going for almost 15 minutes now. So yeah, AQUAPLUS on Switch, fantastic news. I will say better late than never, and I was right. If you want to see AQUAPLUS on Switch when these games come out, consider picking them up. Or tell your friends. These are great games, please play them. Thank you so much. I'm going to move on to my more structured video programming as of next week. So see you soon. Like, comment, subscribe, consider becoming a channel member, etc, etc. Bye bye.